Hi, welcome back to my channel. Still your favorite author, Alabino Abbas Adebayo. Today, I'll be telling you about the concluding part of the most important factors you must consider prior before you buy a property or invest in real estate in Nigeria. If this is your first time of coming across this channel, this is where we talk about everything real estate. We share investors, guides, tips, and advice. Before we dive in, it is important to tell you that you need to take a seat, relax, take a pen and a piece of paper where you write each guide that I'm going to be sharing in this concluding part, because you're going to be needing it if you want to buy property in Nigeria without premium tier. You can also do it to check the part 1 of the first episode on investors guides. You're going to be learning a lot. So now let's dive in. The fifth most important factor to consider when buying a property in Nigeria is land search and verification, what we call due diligence. You need to do a proper due diligence before buying that property. It is extremely important. If not, you're going to be putting down your money to buy trouble. This is where they say 1 million naira land and 10 million naira court cases. The first thing you want to know is the person selling the land the original seller? Is he the rightful owner? Did he have the right to dispose the land? And of course, is the land a subject of litigation? That is the land in courts? Is the land encumbered? As in, has the land been used for collateral or security for a loan or something? You need to know all of this. And you also want to know if the land is not a subject to dispute. You see, these days we have fraudulent people who would have their land as a subject to litigation in court, or it has already been used for collateral, or two brothers or a brother and a sister are already fighting over that particular land. The land is in court, and still they will sell it out to innocent Nigerians out there. This is why you cannot compromise land search, your due diligence before buying that property. Because the land is cheap, because they say the price is going to increase at a particular time or whatever, should not be the reason why you look away and didn't do your due diligence before buying that land. There are two ways you can do this search. You can do the conventional way and you can do the traditional way. Both ways are very important when buying property, because you want to know the originality of the seller. Are they really the original owner of that property? Because you may end up buying a property from someone who is not even the owner of this property. I've had a client who bought a property from someone who happens to be his friend, and the person's uncle owns the property, not him. So because they are friends, he didn't even bother doing any serious verification about the property. He just put down the money and all of that. And after like few years, the uncle came back to Nigeria. He wants to check on all of his properties. On getting to this particular property, he realized that the place has been cleared and there are blocks. They've started the preparation for foundation, and he was wondering, he never sent money for any development on the land. So he decided to call on his brother to know exactly what is happening in that particular place. So after the back and forth, my client realized that his friend is not the real owner of the property. Just because they gave you one deed of assignment does not mean that you already own a title to these properties. Subsequently, in my videos, I'll be doing a comprehensive video on land documents and titles, where you would know what title and documents you need to have and you must have before you have the possession of that property. So for that reason alone, my client realized that he truly didn't have that property, and that is how he lost the whole of that money he used in buying that property without getting any refund whatsoever from his friend. So you don't want to fall a victim of this. You need to do a proper land search. Because it is cheap, because it is your friend. We have brothers now who are in court just because of properties. We have husband and wife who are in court just because of properties. So you really want to do your verification before you buy that property. When buying a property, especially when you are buying directly from the family, it is important you disguise and go to the community. Ask people around. Ask them about that person that introduced you to the land. Ask them about his behavior, his attitude. Is it a notorious person? Is it an untrusted person? Ask them about him. Ask them about the land. There are always baale like we have in Yoruba town and other towns in Nigeria. There are always head of each community. Try and locate them. Let them tell you the originality of things happening on that particular property you want to buy. It is important because it's going to save you millions and headache. This is one way of doing the traditional means of buying properties. You can also get a lawyer. Let them run the search for you at land registry and search CAC to verify the company. All of these things are very important. You cannot just overlook them when buying a property. See, there are some people, they are foreigners eater. They don't want other people from other places to come and buy land in their community. So when they sell one particular land to you, they still sell it to other 3 to 4 people before they now sell originally to their own community person. All of these things, they are doing it intentionally because they don't want foreigners to come and buy that land from them. This is why you cannot compromise your peace of mind when buying properties. And I've said this before, that buying property is like marrying a wife. If you get it wrong, on the very first step, you are in for a serious lifetime of trouble. So you don't want to compromise your peace of mind in buying properties. This is why you need to do a proper due diligence. And these days, we now have some good realtors, just like myself, who would have already run a good search on properties before bringing it out to investors to come and invest. So it is always good to buy from realtors like this so as to have a perfect peace of mind before, during, and after the purchase of your property. Remember, it is better to be safe than sorry. The 6th most important factor you must consider before investing in property in Nigeria is payment method and documentation. See, the first rule to payment when buying properties is thou shalt not pay cash. No matter how much you trust that person, be it your brother, your uncle, you are buying from even the MD of the company, you are buying from the person you know that owns that property. Do not pay cash to them. Make sure that you do a bank transfer from your app, or you go to the bank and do in-bank transfer. Just make a payment through something you can have a direct receipt from. Because the only language that the court understands when issue erupts is evidence, receipts and evidence. So it is only when you are able to have an evidence of payment that you stand a chance for an argument in court. If you don't, then forget about it. You have dashed out whatever the volume of money you have used in paying in cash to that particular property. You really cannot compromise on this particular payment method, but irrespective of how close or how much you trust that person you are buying that property from. Believe me, you don't want to compromise it. So after payment for that land, you also need to know the documents that needs to be in your care. Number one thing is, if you are buying from a family, you need to make sure that upon payment for that property, all the documents that shows that that property belongs to that person or that family needs to be on the table and should be transferred to you directly upon payment. Anything that shows that the property belongs to them needs to be transferred back to you upon payment, so they don't have anything to show that they have any right to that property again. That is very, very important. Not the one that you buy a property, they will give you just deed of assignment, while they still retain the original document that shows that they own the property. They can end up selling that property to another person. Most of our investors don't even know this document in the real sense. They don't know the original copies of this document. They don't know what it looks like. This is why I advise that you always have your lawyer or your trusted realtor with you when getting that property, so they can verify that, oh, this is the original document and it is genuine. So if you are buying from a company, there are documents that need to be in your care too after payment. Upon payment, there are documents the company must give to you. There you have your receipts that shows that you have paid, and also your invoice, your contract of sales. All of these documents are important, and upon completion of payment, you need to get your deed of assignment, your provisional survey, and all of that. All of these documents are important. See, there is nothing like you are being too careful when it comes to documentation of your property, and you can't just be too careful. Every single detail needs to be paid attention to. Every single document is important, and it needs to be taken and be in your possession. It is very, very important, because that is the only thing that shows that you own that property. And if you are buying from a family or even from company, you can always go ahead to perfect that title or document in your own name. Like for instance now, if you buy a property from a company, let's say with a CFO title, you can always go ahead to perfect that title. When you perfect that title to a governor consent, it reflects your own name. Now it makes your property stands out from what every other person in that particular estate has bought. You understand? So doing this makes your investment stands out and improve the value of your investment. The seventh most important factor to consider before buying a property or after buying a property in Nigeria is securing and monitoring. You need to have a system in place that you want to use to secure and monitor that property that you are buying. It is always very important. This is why in the first part of this first episode of Investors Guide, I told you that in your budget you should factor things you need to use your money to do even after you have bought that land. This is a part that will need your budget, because you need to secure that particular property. How do you do that? Number one, when you buy a property, it is important that you take possession by fencing that property, putting in a gatehouse. Some investors, after buying a property, they fence it, they put in a gatehouse. In fact, they hire someone to be there and overlook that property. It is not because of anything, it is to secure their property. So anyone who is coming there will know that no, people are here. Someone owns this property. So if anyone is telling him or her to come and buy, he definitely will want to make inquiry from that person that is there if the property is up for sale or not. So this is why it is important to have something, to have a part of your budget set aside to secure your property. And the part of monitoring is this: you can always have either your siblings or your friends, or you can employ the service of an estate surveyor to come and monitor that property for you, especially for investors that are not based in Nigeria. Our investors in diaspora, this is always very important. Don't leave your property after buying them. Employ the service of someone that will monitor this property for you, just for the safety of your property. There is also this usual practice most of our investors do to secure their property. You see it very bold and clear. If it is a house, this house is not for sale. Beware of 419. So once you see this, you already know that this is not for sale. You can do that too. Make it very bold and clear. For military officers, you can always see it very clear: military zone, keep off. So all of these things is just to secure their property. These things are very, very important. If you have any question concerning this particular guide or anything concerning real estate, you can always drop it in the comment section. I would respond to all messages. I know you've learned so much from this guide, so hit the subscribe button, like, and turn on the notification bell so you can always be the first person to get our guide once we drop them. Hit the like button and share with your friends. Thanks, and see you next time.